Hey everyone, welcome to the Good News Podcast. Today, I am really thrilled to be able to sit down with two incredible people. They happen to be a couple as well. This is Gael Miles. Gail has been a regional counselor in Brampton for many, many years. She's retired now, but as you'll hear, she is still very active in this community, especially through an incredible place we're going to talk about today, Wellspring Cancer Support Centre. Larry Zacher has led Brampton Safe City. He's been involved on a number of fronts here in our city, and both of these individuals, they have such a heart for others. You'll hear that in this conversation. Even after going through some of their own challenges around Gail's cancer journey, they just had this strong desire to help other people, to bring hope to others. And that's just the way these guys are wired. As I said, they're good friends, they're good people. And this is an incredible conversation that I think you're going to really enjoy and will translate into many aspects of your life as well. Friends, fasten your seatbelts, get ready. This is quite a conversation. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome to the Good News Podcast. And today we don't have one amazing guest, we've got two amazing guests. As you heard in the introduction, these are two people who have been leaders in this community for quite some time and continue to be through Wellspring Cancer Support Centre. But before you hear a bit about that incredible ministry and organization, this all came out of some really challenging times. It sort of started with your cancer, Gail, and so maybe we could take some time to go back to that and think about what that was like. And yeah, let's start there. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I'm just thinking as I'm sitting here, the saying, the Lord works in mysterious ways, because it was, I think, about a year before I actually received the cancer diagnosis that I came here to North Bramley Church. Yeah. And I didn't know why I was led here other than my friend Jane. But it really was, for me, when I was at North Bramley and I received the cancer diagnosis, I really didn't feel alone in the same way that I would have had I not been here, because I was surrounded by people who were caring, and I just felt that, someone was looking after me, that the Lord was there for me as well. So, yeah, it's sort of in retrospect, because I really do think the whole Wellspring story was a miracle. And I think partly it was God's miracle. So, yeah, interesting. Yeah, anyway, so, yes, in 2005, I was diagnosed with cancer, and no one's prepared to be told you have cancer, and certainly I wasn't either. So I don't think I really believed it at first. But the one thing you find about cancer is that it's all consuming, and it takes over your life, and I think it takes over your family's life as well, because it's, you get the diagnosis, but then you start going to medical appointments and treatments and having, different tests, and you're waiting. And so for me, it was a whole year where I felt like cancer stole my life away from me, that I no longer had any control, and that I was vulnerable, and sort of my whole life was impacted by this diagnosis. So once it was over, once I had finished my treatment and things looked good, I think that's when, Jamie, you and I connected, because you had been with me through a lot of my cancer journey, and it was you who said, we can't just leave it here. There has to be more. There's so many people in this congregation that are being impacted by cancer. We need to do something.
I'm having just the video reel of reflection in my mind is just going on overdrive right now. I remember stopping to get gas, going with you to one of your appointments, and they were doing something on the radio for people with cancer, and it just hit me, probably because you and many others also had cancer, and it's close to you, and then we're thinking like everybody's doing something for people who have cancer and the families who are impacted by that. But what is the church doing? And I just,
Yeah.
And we'll get there eventually. But with you, like you said, everything kind of stopped, and you focus on, which you need to focus on your health, focus on what's happening. But you're a regional counselor at the time. So just wondering how that was for you to be, were you public around what was happening? How did you juggle all the things that were still going on, because all those things continued even though you have cancer? Yeah, how did you? Because I think that's a challenge people have in the midst of their cancer. That absolutely you got to work on that, focus on that, but there's still this thing called life going on around you as well.
Well, I didn't handle it very well. In fact, what I did was I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell anyone at my work. I didn't tell my parents. I guess I kept thinking, because they kept doing tests and there would be different prognoses, that maybe it was a mistake, right? And so why would I alarm people? But I think the other thing was I didn't want to seem vulnerable.
Yeah. Okay.
And I didn't want to be a victim, and I didn't want to be a statistic, right? They always...
It's actually very common for many people diagnosed with cancer. They have a hard time telling their families and telling people at work, and they kind of bear it on their own for a long time.
Yeah.
But as we've discovered with Wellspring, it is so much better.
Well,
when you have people around you that can kind of carry some of that burden and support you and listen to you.
Yeah.
So it was quite an awakening when we realized how much better. I remember the days when you were driving Gail to some of her appointments, and as you know, there's always a crowd of people waiting for their appointments, and I have this vision of you, this memory of you kind of hopping around, getting different people's stories and talking to them, and it was this casual caring you were doing for people.
Well, and I don't know if you remember this, Gail, but I brought a book or some work that I was going to do, and you were laughing because like you're never going to do work in an environment like that. Like you totally knew me better than I knew myself. Yeah. Larry, often we focus on the person who has the cancer, but I think we've all learned over time that the person who is supporting the person with cancer is just as impacted, sometimes in even more significant ways. What? And I know you've experienced cancer in family members, before Gail as well. What are some of your thoughts around what it's like, to be the person supporting the person with cancer?
First off, it's extremely hard. It's extremely difficult when a loved one is going through an illness or something like cancer. And it's so hard to watch their pain. In some ways, it's harder to watch a loved one's pain than your own pain.
Yeah.
Because you can't fix it, right? And you want to fix it and you want to make everything well, but you can't. So you do the best you can, and it's very stressful. We see this a lot at Wellspring. Caregivers coming there, being part of it, and some of the programs we have are there to support caregivers as well and kind of help them with dealing with that extra stress and emotion. So it's difficult, but as I mentioned earlier, it's so important that people don't feel alone when they're going through a cancer journey, that other people are there to help and to accept their help. Because again, it's hard for people sometimes, cancer patients, to accept help from others.
Yeah.
And it should almost be like, here's a to-do list for other people to help. But yeah.
I know with me, I recall now, people were asking me, what can I do to help? Can I drive you? Can I, what can I do to support you in all of this? And I kept, smiling and saying, oh, no, it's fine. I don't need any help. And finally, Larry said to me, Gail, you have to let people help you. They're looking for a way to support you. So you need to allow them to support you, not just for you, but for them as well, because they're people who care about you. And once I did that, it was a real turning point for me.
Okay.
When I finally let people in and let them help, let them drive me to appointments and support me. It was a very important step that I took.
Yeah. What happened? When you say it's a turning point? Yeah. What changed for you when you released the pressure of just holding on to it yourself, letting others know, letting people help you?
Well, again, I was trying to hide the fear and hide the denial. I didn't want my family to feel, I guess I was trying to protect them. I was trying to protect everybody else around me, quite frankly. And also, I was a member of council. I'm not supposed to be vulnerable. I'm supposed to be strong. I'm supposed to be a leader. So, that was part of keeping the whole thing a secret. So I guess I didn't want to see people's concern on their face, because then it makes it real, right? Making it real is, I think, it's really a big thing when you have a cancer diagnosis. Especially with cancer, you never know what the next step is going to be. You don't know what's around the corner for you. So it really is important. And I think that's, Jamie, a really good segue into talking about Wellspring, because it was through, I think all of the mistakes that I made with my cancer journey, and recognizing that, when you get a cancer diagnosis, cancer doesn't usually hurt, but it's the disease itself that is debilitating. It's the fear, it's the control, it's the not knowing, it's the waiting, and it goes on and on and on. And that's why Wellspring was so important, to bring something to this community, a place where people could turn, where individuals who had a cancer diagnosis, somewhere where they could go and sit down and get answers and understanding, because our medical system doesn't accommodate that. I'm not saying I got amazing medical care, but it's all of the other things, the mind, the body, the soul, the fear, the support. And as you know, because you were part of this, we found Wellspring, and Wellspring really is a place of love and caring and hope for people who are going through that cancer journey. Just an amazing place with amazing people and volunteers and programs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's fill in some gaps here, because it's one thing to experience cancer, going through it together, come to a point where, okay, we got to talk about this, got to be public about this. But then to go from that experience to all of a sudden building a cancer support center here in Brampton. How did that happen? What, as you think back, what was that process like? What were some key ingredients along the way to even make it possible? Maybe Larry and then Gail just because I'd love to hear, because you're watching this whole thing happen. You got concern for your wife, but you also, I think, Larry, if I could say, you're wired in a way that you want to help people, and you recognize that what you're experiencing, like hundreds of thousands of people are experiencing as well.
So as you said, we really wanted something that would be here on an ongoing basis and be open and available to people. And from that point, when we made that decision, Gail was the real dynamo in this. She turned all her pain from the cancer and fear from the cancer into a passion to build this place, and literally perform miracles. Like, I've done fundraising for many, many years, and Gail would go out in the morning to meet with a potential donor, and I'd say, okay, you got to do this. You got to take some time. You got to woo them. You got to get to know them. And she would go in the morning, and she'd come back by noon with a check for $250,000. And I go, no, that's not how you do it.
That's right.
But yeah, good, keep going. And
You give that back. You're not doing it properly.
but it was really something to watch
Yeah.
because so many people, the Gael story resonated with them because so many people have had family members go through cancer or themselves through cancer. And people opened up not only their checkbooks, but I remember being amazed, like schools, the students would go out and do a fundraiser and sell popsicles or sell chocolate bars and show up with a check. And service clubs would, run bingos and do all kinds of events. It was unbelievable. The whole community got together, and in a very short time, in less than 3 years, we were able to build this amazing center and have 3 years of operating capital. And it was just like the most successful, miraculous thing I've ever seen as a fundraiser.
Wellspring, when we found the Wellspring model, they said to us, you have to have a building, you have to have a site, and you have to have at least 1 year's operating funds in the bank. So it was at that time, again, Jamie, you were with me and Larry, when we went to the Wellspring Centre, and we just thought we could go and say, we want you to bring Wellspring to Brampton. And they said, it isn't that easy. If you want to have a Wellspring, these are the things that you have to do. So we came back here to North Bramalea, and we had the discussion, and we made the decision that this was something that we were going to have to pursue. But in order to make it a reality, we would have to identify some pretty key players to sit on the board. So, Jamie, you were there as our program, our spiritual person. And we had to find a doctor, which was Dr. Reingold, a lawyer, Rob Filkin, an accountant was Dan Lebrac, a community leader was Elaine Moore, fundraiser was Larry. Yeah. Am I missing anyone?
It's hard to remember back. That was 14 years ago.
Okay. But I think
it was a dynamic group.
So we did. It was like, and when Larry came with me, and when you, Jamie, sometimes when we talked to individuals about sitting on the board, everybody said yes, right?
Yeah.
And I found that when the very first person I went to talk to was a man named Nick Cortolucci, and I was looking he was a developer in Brampton, and he had a site. And I said, Nick, would you be willing to donate a piece of land to Wellspring? He said, Gail, I can't donate that piece of land, but I can build the building for you. I was like, what did you say? He said, I'll build the building for you. There's something wrong if a developer who builds houses can't build a cancer center.
Wow.
So it was like, and from that day forward, I really felt like I was on a roller coaster, or it just kept moving faster and faster, and I was finding it was really hard to keep up with the momentum. But again, this is where I really felt that I had some spiritual help. I felt like I had a hand on my shoulder, leading me and pushing me in the right direction. Because everybody that I sat down with, I didn't say, give us money or do this or do that. It was more, this is what we're trying to do for the city of Brampton. This is, what we think that the people that will benefit from it. And lo and behold, I had, I remember one gentleman saying, okay, we're going to give you $1 million, $100,000 a year for 10 years. So again, I went home and I'm like, did he really say that? It was like, I'd tell Larry and he'd be, we were just in shock.
Wow. Yeah.
But you know what?
Yeah.
It was to me that proved human nature, that the generosity and the kindness that people would be willing to give. And right enough, we went to people who had the capacity to give.
Yeah.
for the larger donations, but it was just overwhelming that they had someone in their life that had been impacted by cancer. They wanted to give something that was going to have a direct impact on the community. They could see how Wellspring would be a center that would, meet the needs of so many people in the community. So, there wasn't anything, oh, am I going to get a tax receipt? Are you going to do something for me? None of that.
Yeah.
It was all generosity from the heart. And that was the miracle.
Yeah.
And then there was, as Larry said, sports groups and service clubs. Everyone that we went
firefighters,
to.
Police. Everybody got behind it.
The whole community got on board. And in part because everybody's been impacted by cancer, for sure. We've used the word miracle a few times, and I totally agree. Like, and I sometimes you don't catch up to a miracle until after it's happened. Because as it was happening, you almost didn't. You just were so busy doing it. Though I do remember a video that you did, Gail, and I remember you very clearly. I don't have the exact words, but basically you said, I don't think this is me. Like, I think this is God's project, and I'm just a vessel. I'm just part of it. And I know for me, I've thought back to that many times when I'm working on a project or got an issue that just seems way bigger than I feel like my capacity or capability. I'm like, okay, no, if this is God's, it's going to work out. I'm just going to do my part. And, and I think that's the other piece, like miracles can happen. Absolutely. God can work miracles, but God usually needs somebody and some people to step up and participate in that. And this to me is an incredible example of those things happening. I remember sitting around that table where we together, the group that had put on this Evening of Hope here, we together realized we got to do more than just that. We got to bring a center here. I don't know if you remember. I remember we all looked over at Gail and was like, well, you're the one that didn't get the money. And I don't know. So I guess what we're kind of going with that is absolutely God was at work, continues to be, for sure. You really did have some supernatural power at that point. Like I remember talking to you, I was like, Gail is an exceptional leader. Right now, she is on fire. Like she is even like another notch, like another gear, and that was that God gear, sort of thing. But as you think back, it's one thing to look back, and now we're here, so it's like it's all good, right?
Yeah.
But there must have been some moments along the way where you wondered, where you doubted, challenges, pressure that what was that like for you?
Oh yeah, as it was moving forward, and then when I started realizing it wasn't just about building this center and then having some operating dollars in the bank, this was forever. Like Wellspring is a place that all of the funding for Wellspring has to come from the community.
Yeah.
So it's it was too late when I realized I couldn't stop this train.
I'm just getting started.
And I couldn't jump off. And that I really had committed a lot to Wellspring. And I mean, well, the center opened in 2008. It's now 2023, and Larry's still the pres. And we keep trying, and we do. We've recruited new people, and the board has changed, but there always seems to be something that occurs that keeps us there. Like, well, COVID. Like COVID was
if I can just jump back, Jamie, on your point about times you thought, what the heck are we doing? How are we getting? I think the second daunting, first was building of it. But once the building is up and running and all. But the second part is Wellspring runs on a model of volunteers, and it takes many people to do the work that we do at Wellspring, to people to greet people as they come in and help them in different programs and support them in many ways. So that's for me was one of the real daunting things is, we had the building, but now how do we make it happen?
Yeah.
And finding those people. And once again, there was a lot of positive energy as people come forward and said, you know what, I had cancer, or my husband died of cancer. I want to give back. I want to be a volunteer at Wellspring. And even though at the start, going forward, it was like, how are we going to do this? Leap forward a number of months, and it's like we had this amazing group of people there, volunteers who were passionate and that's when like we talked about the first miracle of building it, but I think there's kind of a second miracle happening. It's still ongoing. Yeah. And it's what happens when people walk in the door at Wellspring. It's, and I've seen so many times where people come in for the very first time. They've just had a diagnosis, they've got cancer, and they come in and they got the weight of the world on them, and they're just, and they don't know who we are or what we're doing, but somebody said, you got to go up to this building. Yeah. And they come in the door and things immediately begin to change. They realize they're surrounded by people who have been where they are, who are caring, who want to help them. And honestly, in that first visit that might be 20 or 30 minutes, you can just watch their spirits lift and there's hope. Yeah. And it's through the amazing gift of time and talent we get from the volunteers that make that happen. Yeah. It's that, I don't know. I watch it, I see it, but I can't define it. Yeah. You know what I mean? For sure. No, but I think there is a feeling that you have when you walk into Wellspring. And for those that are maybe listening or watching that are trying to get their heads and their hearts around, okay, what is Wellspring? What does it do? Like there definitely is a feeling you have of, I think it goes back to that idea, Gail, you were saying about just felt like you weren't alone once you started telling people. And I think that would be one, you feel like you're not alone, and it takes a lot of courage to tell people. My experience has been, it takes courage for people to go and for lots of different reasons. Yeah. What are some of the things that people can experience at Wellspring? Some of the programs, some of the impact that you see it happening. Definitely that piece of just, as you said, Larry, you're not alone. You've got people who have experienced this. Volunteers often have gone through cancer themselves. That's I think quite often that's the case. So there's this feeling of not being alone. People are with you. Here's a place you can go. What are some of the practical ways that people are experiencing hope and being helped as well, in addition to that?
Well, we run about 52 different programs. So there's a wide variety of programs that people can choose from when they come to Wellspring, depending upon their own personal needs. Mm-hmm. So we do have volunteers that will sit down when someone comes in, and we have peer support volunteers that will talk to them and explain to them the different programs and try and find the kinds of programming that individuals need. One of the most popular programs that we have now is the Cancer Exercise Program. And it's a program, cool. For people who, could be in different stages of their cancer journey or finished. But we have trained physiotherapists who meet with them and set up a program for them so that they stay healthy. But we also have yoga, we have Reiki. I think the most popular program, supportive type program, is a healing journey.
A healing journey, yes.
I think there's 7 different stages that individuals go through for the healing journey. There's a program called Finance Matters because, again, what do you do if you're the sole support or your paycheck is what is keeping the family going, and you can no longer work. Nutrition. Nutrition is another huge area that people, I know when you're diagnosed with cancer, you want to start eating healthy. Yeah. I know I thought I should quit drinking red wine, and that was, I never quite managed that.
But I thought I should.
Yeah. And then, of course, I found out that there's nothing wrong with a glass of red wine if you talk to the cardiac doctors. But people are looking for different things. And I think Wellspring is set up so that it can, there's programming and support depending upon what are the needs of the individual.
That's amazing. Yeah. Because people's needs will all be different. And I love the spectrum of just serving people.
That's
Yeah.
it's a very important message too for people that we try and convey, is that everybody's journey with cancer is different.
Yeah.
And there's a tendency nowadays, if you get diagnosed with something, you go on the internet, and the tendency is you go with the worst case example. And when people come to Wellspring and they meet people who have survived cancer, and they meet people who are there to kind of help them and listen to them. That's one of the really important things we do, is listen to people.
Yeah, for sure.
Often you don't have any, you can't express your fears to your family or to people you work with. It's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But at Wellspring, that environment's there so you can kind of just let it out. And then we have people who can kind of guide you through. Here's some programming, here's some support, here's some things you can do to overcome that fear and that stress.
Yeah.
Can you talk about some of the groups?
Yeah, we have a lot of, Wellspring is a hub too of a lot of organizations there for cancer support. So a prostate cancer support group, breast cancer support group. There's the group that provide wigs when someone's going through chemotherapy.
Look good, feel good.
Look good, feel good.
Yeah.
And
And we've had drumming there.
Yeah.
We've had art therapy, music therapy.
Again,
all kinds of different programs that I think in the long run they end up being spiritual, because they're making you feel good, and you're in this safe environment with others who absolutely get what you're going through.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You mentioned the word hope earlier, and that really is a place of hope, eh? And I love, I think, how it said earlier that the miracle of it happening was one big miracle. Running it, absolutely, and there's all kinds of a business that needs to be run, really, in some ways, resources and staff. But that every time somebody walks through that door, it is a miracle, I think, and they do experience hope. And I know we need to protect people's anonymity, but did any stories come to mind of this would be an example of someone experiencing hope through Wellspring? I think when we get down to the individual, that's really what it's all about. Yeah.
So I had a gentleman there one day, and an older gentleman, and he came up to me and he thanked me for having Wellspring, being part of Wellspring. And then he told me a story. He said, I was diagnosed with cancer. And he said, my wife said I should come to Wellspring. I said, no, I'm not going there. I'm not going to any place like that. And he said he fought it for a long time. And finally, his wife put her foot down and said, you have to come to Wellspring. So he came, and he said it just turned his life around. From the hope it gave him, but also just the camaraderie of he would go, he was part of the exercise program, he was part of some of the other programs, and he was there with other people going through the exact same thing he was. And that was part of the hope and part of that give him strength. And he said, you couldn't pry me out of this building anymore.
Oh, that's amazing.
I'm here. I'm a lifer.
He's probably the guy bringing others now and sharing,
but he went from total, I'm not going there, to absolute, this is the most amazing place to be. So
tell the story of the lady that you met at the walkathon.
Oh, yeah. That was we had our walkathon last September, and I was there early to help organize, and a number of people were there before. And this lady was walking in front of the stage, and she was crying or just bawling her eyes out. I thought, oh my gosh, she must have lost somebody. Something bad has happened. So I went over and I said, are you okay? I said, can I help you? And she said, oh, these are tears of joy. She said, I'm just so happy to be alive and to be here today. And then she went on to explain, she said, 6 months ago, my doctor told me I was terminal and I should go home and get my affairs together. And she had been a member of Wellspring, but independently of that, her cancer disappeared. It just went away. And she said, I had given up everything. I'd given up all hope, and I was prepared, to die, and it went away. And she said, I'm seeing life so differently now.
Wow.
Everything, I'm just being here this morning with the sun shining. She had me crying, and giving her a hug. But it was an amazing story. And there are so many amazing stories of survival now, because more and more people are surviving cancer. And
And
Amazing.
hope is so powerful.
Yeah.
I think especially when you're going through cancer and the whole diagnosis, and if a loved one has it or a friend has it, the only thing you have is hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what you have to hold on to.
Yeah.
That's what you have to make you strong, is the hope that at the end of the day, everything's going to be okay. Right? No matter what the outcome.
Absolutely.
Because it's not always the outcome you want,
No.
but at the end of the day, it's going to be okay.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah. And
Jamie, can I shift gears for a minute and talk a little bit about how the pandemic has changed things at Wellspring?
Yeah.
So, the hallmark, our strength has always been we're a place for people to come to. But when the pandemic hit in March of 2020, like so many businesses, we had to close the doors.
For sure.
Particularly because we had a very vulnerable population.
Yeah.
So it became difficult. Prior to that, we, as an organization, and remember there's 6 Wellsprings across Canada. So we were kind of limited in, we couldn't be in many rural communities or other places, and limited in how many people we could reach. And this just made it worse. All of a sudden, all 6 places were closed. But for a long time before that, we kind of had a dream, I guess, that we'd be able to help people online, create programs.
So you had that dream thought before the pandemic.
But
interesting.
It never happened. It was just too big a
too busy dealing with people that are there. Yeah.
Now all of a sudden our centers were closed.
Wow.
And this Canada-wide network, we got together and we formed a new service where we took our programs online. And most of the programs were able to transfer online, and it was called it's called Well on the Web. And people from anywhere. You could be in I don't know, Saskatoon or Whitehorse,
Alaska,
or anywhere. And you can go online and you can participate in these programs and in the support. And oh my gosh, it's really opened our eyes to what the possibility of being a truly Canada-wide total service that we can help anybody anywhere as long as they can get to the web.
Yeah.
And so it's created an entire new goal.
Yeah.
Where before it was a dream or a hope. Now it's like, we can do this.
Yeah.
So we actually have a group from all the centers, a group of people who are now working towards this strengthening and enhancing this online service.
Amazing.
And we've all got used to the virtual world, haven't we?
No.
Like at first it was like for me, I thought, no, that's that's not going to work. But I mean, we still have Zoom calls once a week with our families that are around the globe, really.
Yeah. No,
and we're so comfortable. You feel like you're in there.
Yeah.
You're with them.
Yeah.
And
No, it's cool. Another example,
worked.
as hard as the pandemic was, it forced us to be creative sometimes and do things that maybe we'd thought of, or sometimes we had never thought of, but it really works and it continues to.
I wish I had bought shares in Zoom.
No kidding. No kidding.
There's another outcome that came from the pandemic, though, and unfortunately, it's not a positive one. So again, because people didn't go out and didn't do things, we lost a lot of our volunteer base.
Okay.
Where we had, close to 100 volunteers helping in the center. Since the pandemic, we have a big gap there.
Okay.
So there's maybe something people who are listening can consider helping, is we're looking for people to volunteer.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of different volunteer roles.
Yeah.
From greeting people at the desk to helping with some of the administrative work to all those things. So there's a role there for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if people want to give some time and really want to help others who are going through cancer, we'd love to see them come to Wellspring.
Oh, that's great. And Wellspring has a website, so people could just reach out through the website, I assume.
Yeah, we didn't mention that all of the programs at Wellspring are actually run by trained individuals, professionals. Yeah. So they are paid professionals in their field that offer the program. But the rest of the center is run and supported by volunteers.
Nice.
So we have a strong need for volunteers in many different capacities in the center.
Yeah.
but not in areas where they wouldn't be comfortable.
Yeah. So if people are listening, watching this today, obviously getting the word out, maybe they know somebody who has cancer, maybe they or a family member has cancer. Wellspring is a place to go to find hope, to know you're not alone. Volunteers would be another way to help out and support this. And there's always a need for resourcing. So if someone's feeling called to offer some financial resourcing, as you said earlier, this is how it works. And this is how it works.
I've never heard anyone say, I'm sorry I went to Wellspring.
Yeah, no.
Right?
No.
It's always been, oh my, I'm so happy that I went to Wellspring.
Yeah. Life-changing for sure. Oh,
exactly.
Gail and Larry, thank you for just being really good friends and really exceptional leaders and saying yes to this miracle that God was looking to bring to Brampton, but needed some people to lead it and to bring it and to build it and to run it. I'm really curious, before we close with a little good news podcast rapid fire. One thing I haven't talked about, I'm curious, as a couple, it's hitting me as we're talking that you have served together on this project, and continue to. What has it been like for you two as a couple? Because I gotta think there's got to be times where and then obviously So I won't try to answer the question, but I think just to be able to serve at such a high level as a couple. What's it been like for you? Yeah. What is it like?
You know what? We don't always agree.
Yeah.
In fact, we often don't.
So you're human.
We often don't agree. But, I think both of us come from the world of not-for-profit where you work with committees, you work as a team.
Yeah.
So it's okay to not agree. At the end of the day, if you are a well-functioning team, everybody has a voice, and at the end of the day, you build a consensus as to, what is the direction you should take. And I think that's one of the things that we've been able to do.
Yeah,
is that it's not just us. We're only one of a team, and a lot of times we're sitting on opposite sides of the fence, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's not, that's not for us. We don't really have difficulty with that because we disagree with a lot of things at home too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
Right? It's not just Wellspring.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting
for sure.
Question or subject, Jamie, because it's come up a number of times. Like, is it ethical for a married couple to serve on the same board of directors?
Yeah,
and I've kind of done a bit of research and listened to people's stories. And one of the things that resonated with me is couples that say it's helped to enrich their relationship that they serve the same cause together. Because otherwise there would be times, if I was on my own on Wellspring or Gail, she'd be doing things away from me or apart from me. But we're able to share this.
Yeah.
So we go to the golf tournament and we go to the events and we do all the things as a couple and as board members. And for us, it's been a very enriching experience.
Yeah.
And anybody ever ask me, well, should you serve with your wife or your husband on a board? I would say absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it becomes that shared experience.
Yeah.
And
we still disagree though.
Well, and that's real. That's real. I love that.
I think for me, and probably Larry would say the same thing. If there's one thing that I have accomplished in my life that I'm really proud of and feel good about, it's got to be Wellspring. It's I just to have that center here and know that it's helping people all the time. It feels good. It feels really good.
Yeah. Amen. Well, I think maybe it's a good time to close with a prayer here. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a great, perfect. Let's pray, guys. Yeah. Lord, thank you. Yeah, just feels like holy ground here as we've taken some time to reflect and just see you at work through it all in so many ways, to lead Gail and Larry to work through their own cancer journey, to be public over time about that, and not only to find healing and hope themselves, but then to have this deep conviction and desire to bring that same hope and help to others. That's all part of what led to Wellspring being here in Brampton. For you having this idea, we trusted it was always yours, that you are the one who brings about miracles, but you involve us in that. And for Larry and Gail and many others who have been a part of it and continue to be, we just thank you for the miracle continues, that people will hear this, that they'll respond, whether it be volunteer or resourcing or going to Wellspring and inviting someone to Wellspring so that miracle can continue. So we thank you for all of this. It really does put our life in perspective. It makes life very much worth living as we do our very best and only experience your blessing, but also to share that blessing with others. And Wellspring has and continues to do that in an extraordinary way. So we thank you for all of this and just grateful for this time, for this life that we share. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Larry and Gail, thank you so much.
Yeah, good conversation.
Yeah, really. Well, hopefully have you back because there's lots of other topics we could talk about too, but this was the right one for today.
That was good.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks everyone for joining us on the Good News Podcast. Always great to be with you. And again, please look up Wellspring. There's lots on the web. Their website has lots of information programs, but you can also be a part of extending and helping this miracle continue as people find hope and help when they're impacted by the cancer journey. Friends, God bless you and be with you. Always good to be with you. Man, I told you these guys were like a dynamic duo, aren't they? I love how we ended there talking about what it's like to serve as a couple, and Gail and Larry, they're awesome. They're just so real. Of course, there's times where it's challenging, where they don't agree and they have to work through that. But of course they do, because they're great people and they're able to do those kinds of things really, really well. But also love what Larry said, just that it's been a blessing to serve together because instead of being away from each other, they get to spend extra time together, to be at functions, to serve on the board together. And I can tell you this, man, our city is a much better place because of all the work that both of them have done to make Wellspring Cancer Support Center what it is today. It is a place that continues to bring hope and help to so many. Maybe you've been inspired by this. Maybe you said, hey, I want to help. I want to be a volunteer. I want to give some resourcing, some finances. I want to let somebody I know who's struggling with cancer themselves, I want to let them know about this place where they can go and they can find that kind of help and hope as well. It's interesting. I also love that part where we talked about God's miracles that also involve us, and somehow there's just a reality. Those two things go together. God's got some great ideas. There's many things that God wants to see happen on planet Earth, but God always involves regular people like you and me. And so it may not be for you, it may not be building a cancer support center, but what is it? Maybe there's something that you've been sitting on, that you're thinking about, that you've been kind of feeling, and you're realizing it's time to step up, it's time to say yes. It may be scary, but it'll be okay because you and God, I want to assure you, you and God make a great team. And hope you heard that in this story as well, that we all can join God, partner with God to be a part of bringing miraculous activity, amazing things, healing and hope to this broken world. So don't forget to follow us on Good News with Jamie Holtum, Instagram. Love it if you could share this. If you want to subscribe to the Good News Podcast, you'll find out every time an episode is released. Also, don't forget Wellspring Cancer Support Center here in Brampton. Check out their website. Lots of information there. Share it around because who knows who you might help by doing so. Friends, always good to be with you. Thanks for joining the conversation today. God bless you and be with you. Look forward to seeing you again real soon.